He's considered one of the greats of Canadian hockey, known for scoring the goal of the century.
Bell, here's another shot, right by the score! Henderson has scored for Canada!
September 1972, the Summit Series against the former Soviet Union. With less than a minute left, Paul Henderson scores the game-winning, series-winning goal, an emotional finish burned into the nation's memory. Now there is a new push to get Henderson inducted into the Canadian Hockey Hall of Fame.
Paul Henderson was a most incredible player. Memorial Cup winner, he led the OHL in goals, he played in 2 Stanley Cup finals, 2 All-Star games, he was the last player in the original 6 era to record a 4-goal game, and he played over 1,000 pro games, scoring over 700 points. Mr. Speaker, Henderson should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yes, yes. Speaking for all goalies, Mr. Speaker, I urge the Hockey Hall of Fame to complete this wonderful story by giving us relief by getting him out of our crease and into the hall where he belongs.
Don Cherry says he should be inducted. That's good enough for me. Do the right thing. Let's get Paul Henderson in the Hockey Hall of Fame. God bless you, Paul Henderson.
Mr. Paul Henderson.
This week, MPs passed a bipartisan motion to pressure the Hockey Hall of Fame committee to induct Henderson. Henderson stood in the House of Commons to welcome the motion on Monday, which also happened to be his 76th birthday. With more on this multi-partisan effort, we're joined by Liberal Roger Cuzner, Conservative John Barlow, and the NDP's Richard Cannings. Hello to all three of you. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Okay, tell me what is behind this bipartisan push. I can't remember the last time we had 3 MPs from 3 different parties that agreed on the same thing on the show. Richard Cuzner?
Yeah, well, obviously it's an issue that's far greater than politics. This is about our country and a very special time in our country where we all stood together and celebrated our Team Canada's success and Paul Henderson's goals. Not just in the final game, but really the last 3 games of that series. But I had the great pleasure to be with Paul for a fair amount of the day the other day, and on Monday. And he's one of the kindest, most gracious guys you'll ever want to meet. And know that this isn't coming from him. This is a groundswell. This recent attempt to move him toward the Hall of Fame is sort of keyed up by Liam McGuire here in town, a hockey historian and very much respected voice in the hockey community. But he and Patrick Drosier came to me and had mentioned, you know, they really want to put a push on with Paul Henderson. What can we do in the House? So John's an old hockey buddy of mine, and we talked to Brian Mass as well, and brought it to those guys, and it was unanimous. They said, what can we do to help, sort of thing, and that's where it grew from there.
Mr. Barlow, what's your understanding of why Mr. Henderson is not in the Hockey Hall of Fame?
Well, it really is, you know, extremely disappointing. Like, you know, I was only, unlike these 2 guys, I was only a year old when the goal was scored. But I remember it as much as you couldn't ask any Canadian.
I wasn't even alive, so touche, but anyway, go ahead.
You ask any Canadian, you know, who won the Grey Cup in '81, who won the Super Bowl in '91, no one would be able to tell you. But every Canadian knows what happened in '72. They know who scored that goal. So it's a travesty that he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. This was a moment that was called the sports moment of the century. And I think there's just some bad blood that's been left over from when Paul left the Toronto Maple Leafs and went to the WHA. You know, he certainly became an outspoken advocate for players' rights. I think a lot of those things have just been left over, and it's really a shame that some animosity between him and Howard Ballard from 1974, 1975 has been left 45 years later.
Mr. Cannings, did you have a chance to meet with him?
No, I didn't.
Or what is behind your sort of participation?
You know, unlike these, well, certainly John, I was actually
there,
alive and sentient. I was in university, and this was, you know, we all watched it in the common room at Totem Park at UBC. And, you know, after the series, the start of the series was disheartening, and then we won those last 2 games, and then the final game, when Yvon Cornway scored that goal to tie it up, I thought, oh my God, at least we tied things. And then Paul Henderson scores, and it was, like you said, it was a moment for the country. It brought us all together, and, you know, I think Paul should be in the Hall of Fame even if he hadn't scored that goal or any goals in that series, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. But in that series, he brought Canada together like no one else had before or probably has since. And I think, you know, that's why I think I was proud to be part of that move on Monday in the House to be part of that.
I have a crazy question, Mr. Cuzner, but why do you think the Hockey Hall of Fame will listen to politicians?
No one else does.
I didn't say that, but I mean,
there have been initiatives before, and people have tried before to get the momentum and get them in. It's been sort of rekindled recently because a third member of the Russian, the team that lost that 72 series, but now you have Tretiak, Kharlamov, and in November they put Yakashev in, and so that has sort of sparked it again. But you know, guys like Don Cherry and Ron McLean, and they've advocated for Paul's induction before. We think that it's time, and again, you know, the induction of the third Russian. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame, and there is no more famous goal. There's no goal that has acquired that amount of fame more so than Paul Henderson's. I mean, he's been on stamps, he's been on coins, he's a member of the Order of Canada, he's a member of the Order of Ontario, you know, International Ice Hockey Federation, Hall of Fame, all those tributes. Usually, and I'm sure Dick and John have had the same experience, when you mention to Canadians that he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame, the reaction that you get back, and you know, they say, you know, what the heck, eh? So, you know,
I guess what I'm getting at, and I don't mean to make it serious, but like, is this the cause that politicians should be fighting for?
Yeah, I would agree with. This is not something you would normally see come out of the House of Commons, and I don't think it's us as parliamentarians to tell the Hockey Hall of Fame what they should be doing. But I think our goal from this is quite genuine, as we wanted to raise awareness about this. Mr. Henderson turned 76 on Monday. We would love to see him be able to enjoy this while he is alive. And as Roger said, I was speaking to many of my constituents, my wife on the weekend, who's not necessarily a hockey fan, but she was stunned that he wasn't in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And even talking to some other parliamentarians on Monday as we were getting ready for this, most Canadians believe, A, he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and are extremely disgusted that he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I don't think this is something that we are going to start, you know, imposing our will on sports Hall of Fames across the country. But I think this is just a great opportunity to raise awareness about something that a lot of Canadians believe is important, has already happened.
And Mr. Cannings, what happens next? How does this work from here?
Well, I assume that all this pressure will come on to the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Have you heard from them?
I haven't personally, but you know, I think, you know, we talk about jurisdiction all the time, whether it's provincial or municipal or whatever, and whether we're trampling on jurisdiction. This isn't about jurisdiction. This is just about the House of Commons, which has, you know, some, you know, backing behind it. When people hear that the House of Commons has put forward a unanimous motion, people sit up and listen. And if that's one more thing we can do to bring this to the Hockey Hall of Fame's attention.
Actually, just
final word, Mr. Cuzner.
Well, just two more points. I want to thank Larry Dow. He was my grade 10 teacher that wheeled in the television, and so we skipped class that afternoon. He wheeled it. He used to have the big televisions, and he opened up the steel doors.
What grade again, you said?
It was first year, grade 10.
18, yeah.
First year, you know, I think not that we've got a bit of a voice, and we're sent to Ottawa to represent the views of our people back home. And I think most of us are safe in saying that most Canadians celebrated that moment. We rose together at that moment as a nation. Hopefully, we can come together now and hopefully move Paul Henderson toward being considered for the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you, all three of you, for coming here to share your thoughts on this motion. Really appreciate it. Thanks to Roger Cuzner, John Barlow, and Richard Cannings.
Thanks, Vashi.
Thanks, Vashi.